Balin's Stormforge gripped the obsidian hammer, symbol of their family's mastery over earth and metal, as his father's final, rattling breath faded in the high-altitude silence of Storm Peak Forge. The dying words, "The Forge chooses," hung unfinished, echoing the unspoken rivalry between him, the eldest, and his three brothers. Outside the mountain stronghold's thick stone walls, a tempest raged, mirroring the storm of ambition and resentment brewing in Kalen's fiery highs as he watched Balin claim the hammer. The Stormforge dynasty ruled the Iron Crags, their mastery of geomancy and metalsmithing, crafting legendary weapons and impregnable fortifications from the living rock. Balin, the steadfast eldest, embodied the mountain's strength, expected to inherit the forge. Kalen, second-born, blazed with volatile talent, his pyromancy enhancing the forge fires, but fueling a jealous heart. Torin, the third brother, flowed like water, a master of logistics and trade through the Silvertarn River network, his calm surface hiding deep currents. Kalen, the youngest, possessed an affinity for aeromancy, his spirit as free and observant as the mountain winds, often dismissed as impractical by his earthbound brothers. Their father, Borvin Stormforge, had held them in uneasy balance, but his sudden collapse from stone fever shattered everything. His will, read by the ancient stone speaker Marn, contained a thunderclap. Kalen, the youngest, was named heir. Not Balin, the expected rock. Not Kalen, the fiery heart of the forge. Not Torin, the shrewd trader. Kalen. The justification? His spirit sees the unseen currents, vital for the forge's future in changing winds. Balin stood rigid, betrayal hardening his granite features. Torin's expression remained unreadable, a still pond. Kalen's face flushed crimson, fists clenching, sparks dancing at his fingertips. Kalen looked stunned, then terrified. "This is a mistake," Kalen roared. "The boy knows nothing of smitting. Balin is the heir." The transition was brutal. Balin, stripped of his expected mantle, retreated into stony silence, overseeing the deep mines with cold efficiency, avoiding Kalen. Torin offered Kalen clipped advice on ledgers and trade routes, his helpfulness laced with subtle condescension, subtly undermining Kalen's confidence. Kalen's resentment festered openly. He challenged Kalen's orders, misplaced crucial ore shipments, and whispered poison to the master smiths. "The boy weakens us. His head's in the clouds, not in the forge." Kalen, overwhelmed and isolated, leaned heavily on Marn and the few loyalists who remembered Borvin's wisdom. He tried to learn, to prove himself, but the mountain itself seemed to resist him, his aeromancy feeling useless against rock and metal. The breaking point was the trial of the molten heart. To fully claim leadership, the heir had to channel the forge's core magic through the obsidian hammer into a blank sky iron ingot, shaping a weapon of power. It required harmony between heir and forge. Kalen prepared nervously. Unbeknownst to him, Kalen, driven by seething ambition and convinced Balin secretly agreed, enacted his treachery. Using his deep access, he tampered with the earth focus crystals lining the ritual chamber. He didn't sabotage the magic, he twisted it, linking the flow not just to Kalen, but to his own pyromancy. Torin, discovering Kalen's plan, didn't stop him. He saw an opportunity. Chaos could be profitable.
He ensured the crucial river barge carrying pure quenching glacial melt was delayed.
The trial commenced. Callan raised the obsidian hammer, focusing his will, calling the winds to guide the forge's immense geothermal power. The chamber hummed, sky iron glowing white-hot. But the power surged wildly, amplified and distorted by Callan's hidden interference. Instead of flowing smoothly through Callan, it raged like an untamed beast. Callan struggled, his aromancy desperately trying to calm the chaos, but the twisted energy resisted. The sky iron blobbed, misshapen, useless. Then catastrophe. Without the pure glacier melt to safely quench it, the unstable energy needed release. It erupted upwards. A section of the ancient forge ceiling, weakened by the chaotic surge, cracked and collapsed. Though no one was killed, vital forges were damaged, and priceless star metal stores were buried. Chaos erupted. Callan was the first to point a flaming finger. See? His weakness. His wind magic shattered the forge. He nearly killed us all. Torrin swiftly produced documents showing Callan had personally authorized a lesser, untested quenchant instead of the glacier melt, conveniently available now that the barge finally arrived. Balin, his face like carved stone, surveyed the damage. The evidence seemed irrefutable. The deep betrayal Callan saw in his brother's eyes, Callan's vicious triumph, Torrin's cold calculation, even Balin's stony disappointment was worse than the collapse. The Stone Speaker Council, pressured by the outcry and the apparent evidence, had no choice. Callan was declared unfit. Stripped of title and name, he was exiled from the Iron Crags forever, cast out with nothing but the clothes on his back and the crushing weight of their betrayal. As the massive stone gate slammed shut behind him, Callan's mocking whisper carried on the wind. "Fly away, little brother. The mountain needs strength, not breezes." Exile was a crucible. Callan wandered the whisper-wind plains, a desolate expanse bordering the crags. Hunger, despair, and the biting wind were his constant companions. He survived by bartering minor wind magic, finding water sources, predicting dust storms, with nomadic Skyrider clans. Among them he found unexpected acceptance. An elder Skyrider, Lyra, recognized his pain and his potential. She said, "The wind carries truth, Callan Stormless. It whispers secrets, erodes lies. Your strength isn't in moving mountains, but in seeing what moves them." She taught him to listen deeper, not just to the wind's direction, but to the stories it carried. Fragments of conversation, the groan of stressed stone, the hiss of hidden fire. He learned to weave the wind not for force, but for perception, creating intricate echo nets that could capture distant sounds or subtle vibrations.
Driven by Lyra's teachings and the burning need for justice, Callan focused his refined aromancy. He sent whispers of wind snaking back towards the iron crags. They slipped through cracks, danced down chimneys, flowed through ventilation shafts. He listened. He learned of Callan's swift, harsh rule as the new de facto leader, Balin silently managing the mines like a loyal ox, and Torrin's burgeoning wealth, securing exclusive trade deals by leveraging the forge's renewed stability under Callan's strong hand. He heard the discontent among the miners and smiths, unsafe conditions pushed to meet Torrin's quotas, resources diverted to Callan's lavish quarters. He caught fragments of arguments, Balin's low growl about recklessness, Torrin's smooth voice urging pragmatism, Callan's fiery retorts dismissing caution. Most crucially, his echo nets brushed against the damaged Earth focus crystals during a routine inspection by Callan's loyalists. The crystals still resonated with the twisted signature of pyromancy layered over geomancy, the undeniable fingerprint of Callan's sabotage.
Kalen had his proof, but exposing it required confronting the mountain itself. He needed leverage, a stage, and an audience that couldn't be silenced. He learned of the reckoning ceremony. Held once a decade, it was a grand display of Stormforge power, where the finest new creation was presented and blessed by channeling the Forge's heart. This year, Kalen planned to unveil the Inferno Glaive, a weapon said to channel his pyromancy directly. The ceremony required the focused energy of all three brothers, Balin anchoring the earth, Turin channeling the necessary coolant flows via the silver tarn, and Kalen wielding the fire. It was the perfect, perilous stage. Kalen returned not as an heir, but as a ghost. Using his wind magic, he masked his presence, slipping through the crags like a shadow. He moved through forgotten tunnels, listening, planning. He found allies in the disgruntled. Dern, a grizzled master smith disgusted by Kalen's shortcuts, and Enya, a young water worker whose brother had been injured in a mine collapse caused by neglected supports. They provided information, access, and safe passage within the fortress. The day of the reckoning arrived. The great forge hall thronged with clan leaders, allied traders, and Stormforge retainers. Kalen stood proudly on the central dais before the pulsating forge heart, a massive crystal conduit to the mountain's geothermal power. The Inferno Glaive rested on a pedestal. Balin stood stoically to his right, hands resting on the stone floor, ready to anchor. Turin stood to his left, near intricate pipes carrying water from the silver tarn, ready to regulate the flow. The air crackled with anticipation. As the ceremony reached its peak, Kalen raised his hands, calling forth the Forge Heart's raw power. Balin grounded it, the floor trembling slightly. Turin directed shimmering streams of water-cooled energy towards the glaive. The weapon began to glow, radiating intense heat. This was Kalen's moment. He stood hidden high in the rafters, unseen. He focused not on force, but on precision. He wove threads of wind, impossibly fine and directed. One thread snaked into the mechanism controlling the earth focus crystals near the dais. Another found the specific pipe carrying the crucial coolant flow Turin was manipulating. A third brushed against the Inferno Glaive itself. He didn't attack. He amplified. He used his wind to vibrate the damaged earth focus crystals at their resonant frequency, the ones still scarred by his brother's sabotage. The crystals hummed, then sang, a high-pitched, discordant note that cut through the ceremony's roar. Simultaneously, he sent a focused gust down the coolant pipe, momentarily increasing the flow Turin was carefully manipulating. Turin, startled, overcompensated, jerking the flow valve shut too hard. The delicate balance shattered.
The Forge Heart's energy, no longer perfectly grounded by the singing unstable crystals, and suddenly deprived of the precise coolant rhythm, surged erratically. Instead of flowing smoothly into the glaive, raw power lashed out, not destructively, but revealingly. Bolts of uncontrolled energy arced from the glaive, not towards the audience, but swirling wildly around the dais. Kalen focused his will through the wind thread touching the glaive. The wild energy didn't burn, it illuminated. It coalesced into shimmering, ephemeral images above the dais, projected by the glaive's unstable power and shaped by Kalen's guiding wind. Kalen, hunched in the trial chamber, hands glowing red as he twisted the earth focus crystals. Turin, in his study, calmly altering the manifest for the glacier melt barge, marking it delayed per Kalen's orders. The moment of the ceiling collapse, showing the energy surge erupting from the crystals, not from Kalen's position. Gasps turned to shouts, "Treachery! Sabotage!" Kalen stared, horrified, as his own actions were displayed above him.
He tried to quell the energy, but his pyromancy only fed the chaotic display. "Lies! Wind tricks!" he screamed, firing a bolt of flame wildly towards the rafters where he sensed Kalen. Balin reacted instinctively. He slammed his fists onto the stone dais. A wall of rock erupted, shielding the audience and blocking Kalen's wild shot. His stony face, etched with years of suppressed betrayal, finally cracked. He looked from the damning images to Kalen, then to Torin. "You!" Balin's voice was a low rumble, more terrifying than any shout. "You did this? To our brother? To the forge?" Torin, his calm facade shattered, backed away, hands raised. "Kalen, he planned it. I saw an advantage." His pleas sounded hollow amidst the chaos. Kalen stepped from the shadows onto a lower balcony, the wind swirling around him, no longer hiding. "The wind carries truth, brothers." His voice rang out, clear and strong, amplified by the air itself. "It erodes lies. Borvin saw the storm within these walls. He named me heir not for strength of arm, but for clarity of sight. Sight you blinded yourselves with greed and envy." Kalen, cornered and enraged, gathered his power, aiming not at Kalen, but at the forge heart itself, a final destructive act of spite. "If I can't have it, no one will." But Balin was faster. He roared, a sound like a mountain splitting, and unleashed his full geomancy. The stone floor beneath Kalen surged upwards, encasing him instantly up to his neck in solid rock before his flames could erupt, trapping him like a fly in amber. Torin crumpled, not from attack, but from the weight of exposure, surrounded by accusing stares. The reckoning was complete, but not as Kalen planned. Kalen hadn't sought blood. He sought justice. He sought the truth. He looked at Balin, whose eyes held a lifetime of regret and newfound grim resolution. He looked at the trapped, spitting fury of Kalen and the broken figure of Torin. The Stormforge name was tarnished, the forge damaged, but the poison was exposed. The path ahead was arduous, rebuilding trust, repairing the forge, deciding the traitor's fate. Kalen, the exiled Wind Brother, didn't claim the obsidian hammer that day. He simply stood, the storm winds swirling around him, a quiet force that had weathered the storm of betrayal and cleared the air. The forge's future, like the winds he commanded, was uncertain, but finally it was free to breathe. The echo of his father's words, "The forge chooses," finally made sense. It had chosen truth.